Let's talk about AQA English Language Paper 2, Question 2, the approach. Okay, now the question 2 is the one that asks you to summarize the differences. Okay, now very occasionally it will ask you to summarize the similarities. Okay, I've only seen that once in the entire time that this has been a question. So it's most likely to be summarizing the differences. The skill, therefore, that you are applying is what we call synthesis. Okay, now synthesis, it's very much like comparison, but it's a simplified version. It's simplified comparison, and the way that it is simplified is that there is no comment on methods. Okay, or indeed no analysis. So really, really simple. All you need to do is the following things. Okay, so you need to state the difference. Okay, easy peasy. Then show it in text 1. Then confirm that difference based on what you've just quoted. Then show it in text 2. And simple, confirm that difference. Okay? Really, really simple approach. And what that means that you're going to do is something like the following. So the language that you're going to use is just going to kind of, it's going to apply to each of these points. Okay? So state the difference. 1, contrast is. Okay? Show it in text 1. We see this in text 1 when it says, quote, quote. Okay? Confirm that difference. This is where you're just going to put a little comment saying, suggesting, and relate it to what your contrast is. Then show it in text 2. We see it in text 2 when it says, okay, so exactly the same. And then again, confirming that difference, suggesting, and then you're just going to confirm that difference once more. Now, my guys, you can do that in one sentence for each of your points. I'd recommend doing 3 or 4 of those differences, but it's really, really simple. A couple of top tips, a couple of things to make sure that you are doing. Okay, so make sure that you are comparing like for like. What does that mean? Well, examiners get really annoyed every year because students will go, in text 1, the train is purple, whereas in text 2, the train is very long. Okay, so they're not comparing the same thing. So in the first one, they're talking about color, and in the second one, they were talking about size. So you would need to say, the train in text 1 is purple, whereas the train in text 2 is yellow. Or the train in text 1 is quite short, whereas the train in text 2 is very long. Okay, so compare like for like. That's one thing to make sure that you do that frequently students forget to do. The next thing to make sure that you do is to compare the given focus, not the writers or writing. What do I mean by that? Okay, so quite often there will be So let's use the train example again, which was on a real life past paper a few years ago. You would need to be comparing, if the text says, summarize the differences between the trains, you would need to summarize the difference between the trains, not between the attitudes towards the trains, or the writing style of the two writers, or the language used to describe the scenery. So you'd need to focus on the trains themselves, hence the examples before of the difference in color or the difference in size of those trains. Okay, so compare the given focus, not the writers or the writing. And then another really important thing to remember to do is remember you can do the whole thing, you can do it all in 3 to 4 sentences. Okay, so this is the approach that I recommend when it comes to the English Language Paper 2 question 2. And all you're going to do is you're going to have your two texts side by side. Okay. Now, in a perfect world, you would be able to have them in the insert side by side, but sometimes that's not possible. So sad times. But you're going to have your two texts side by side like this. Okay. So here's text. Excuse me. Let me change my color. Here's text 1, and here's text 2. All you're going to be doing is you're going to be finding your differences. Okay, so you're going to find them in the text, you're going to draw a line between them, and you are going to label what the difference is that you have found. Okay, you're going to do that again, you're going to find another striking difference, and you're going to label it. You're going to find a third and maybe even a fourth one if you think that your arguments are not particularly compelling. You can find a fourth, but you get 3 or 4, and that's the way that you have everything that you need to do. Okay, your label is going to be what the difference is that you are comparing. Okay, is it size? Is it color? Okay, so you're going to label what the difference is. The quotations that you've highlighted, they are going to be your evidence. Okay, so that's when you're going to show it in text 1 and show it in text 2. And then the confirming the difference bit, very, very simply, you're going to do some very basic inference. Okay, and that inference is not analysis. It is quite simply the train is the train in text 1 is very large. We can see this when the writer, or as shown when the writer says enormous tube of people, or whatever. Okay, terrible writing that would be, suggesting that it is larger than average. Text 2, on the other hand, seems much smaller, as the writer says the cramped, insufficient train. Okay, again, awful writing, but cramped, insufficient train, suggesting that it is too small for the people on board. Okay, so that suggesting bit is where you're going to do a little bit of inference. You can, if you want to, label that on your annotations, squiggle, 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 as you go through. If you do that when you're annotating, then essentially you've got a fully written answer all done. Okay, so really, really simple approach. It shouldn't take you more than about 10 minutes, and probably you can probably do it in 8. And it's a really, really simple, short piece of writing. In our next video, we are going to look at a modeled response so you can see how all of this looks in practice.